We're gonna go over number 5 from the Tao Te Ching. The Tao doesn't take sides. It gives birth to both good and evil. The Master doesn't take sides. She welcomes both saints and sinners. The Tao is like a bellows. It is empty yet infinitely capable. The more you use it, the more it produces. The more you talk of it, the less you understand. Hold on to the center. So God, the Tao doesn't take sides. It gives birth to both good and evil. So it's just basically this concept of like balance, yin and yang, and really not really favoring one over the other, like truly having balance, like 50-50 into 100, like male, female, positive, negative, sun and light, the moon and the sun, and darkness and light, black and white. It's just like understanding the balance and like truly being at a point where you're not favoring one over the other, and I think in this culture, it's constantly trying to teach people to be good, to not be bad, but at the same time, good and bad, it is a judgment. It's the mind that decides what is good, what is bad, and definitely with different type of cultures, not everything's the same throughout the entire world, and it's like it's all a perception of good and bad. So to like truly get to the point where you're not favoring one over the other, that is what it's talking about. The Master doesn't take sides. She welcomes both saints and sinners. So that's another thing, where people that are saints, they put themselves above the people who are sinners, and they look at those people as not at their level, and it's really looking at things from a kind of like levels, like a ladder, but in this, it's like just basically putting people in equality, at one level, and just basically upsetting everybody, because in a way, it's almost like everybody has some good in them, everybody has some bad in them, everybody has their challenges, things that they need to work on. Everybody has the things that they're gifted in and things that they're good at, so it's like everybody has their strengths, everybody has their weaknesses. So it's like just accepting everything in totality, and the Tao is kind of like one of those teachings where you could learn, yes, from somebody who's a doctor, lawyer, professor, but then you could also learn from people who never got any degrees, and they learn most of what they know from the streets, and it's not like, quote unquote, like a formal education, it's something very informal. So it's like this idea that you can learn from older people that have a lot of experience, but then you could also learn from like a newborn child, that can't even speak yet, and there's like so many different ways to learn from so many different people, and to not be like limited into believing that only this group of people can benefit you, or to get that, or that can only this group of people can teach you. So it's really, welcoming both and just not being limited. And it can also be like applied to like Eastern and Western philosophy, and religions. Like there's, America and the Western ways, and then there's like the Eastern way, like with China and the Eastern countries, and just basically seeing both and valuing both and letting them both come together in harmony. The Tao is like a bellows. It is empty yet infinitely capable. The more you use it, the more it produces. The more you talk of it, the less you understand. So really, it's like the Tao is something that is more, something that's more of an experience that is not of words, but it's kind of like a way of life and a presence and a feeling. And words can't adequately describe an experience. It's not the same as actually going through it and living it and being it. So the more that you use language, the more that you talk about it, then basically the further away you're getting from the Tao. So the Tao is something where you experience it, you live it, and it's kind of wordless. There's really not any type of language that could like completely define it and help people understand it. It's like something that's beyond the language. So it's like kind of teaching you how to come closer to truth without words. Hold on to the center. Hold on to the center to me is basically saying be balanced, like remain in balance. You know, just like if you're trying to balance on a balance disc, you know, like you gotta put the equal amount of, you know, force on each end to be in balance. And it's like that is like the center, like being the center of the, you know, in the center of the circle, the circumference, like being directly in the center, and then like directly in balance, like 50-50, not like 75 and 25 or like 90 and 10, but to be like completely balanced at 50-50. That is the aim, and that is the one, that is what makes it, you know, challenging. It's not easy to do, but that is the way. You know, even if you're 51 and 49, it's still not in balance completely. You know, the 50-50 is the balance. So you got like, you know, 1% chance of getting completely in balance, and then the other 99% is like a little bit off in some way, or a lot off. So but the master is somebody who can work towards that balance, and then through time it becomes effortless, and it is easy because they put in so much time. So just think about some of these gymnasts, you know, say like a Simone Biles and a Suni Lee. They just did the Olympics, and they're on that balance beam, and being on that beam and doing all those tricks and those stunts, all those routines is extremely difficult. Very few people in the world could do those types of routines and stunts the way that they are able to perform it. But even them, both of them even fell off during the competition, and they both did not win gold because of that mistake. And they've been practicing for over a decade or over 2 decades, and discipline in their practice to try to perfect that sport and that expression. But even with all that practice, they still make mistakes. So when you're in the path of the Tao, you want to be balanced, you want to be centered, and it's not an easy thing to do, you know, and it will take decades of development. But there can be a point where you get to where you are almost a master of it, and you remain balanced, you remain centered. So being centered is like being meditative, being in the moment, being present.